Hey audio geeks, I hope you've all had a wonderful Christmas. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my top 5 products of 2022. Now these end of year lists are obviously highly subjective and I can't claim that my list is in any way definitive. After all, I've only heard a very small proportion of all the audio gear that's been released this year. However, these 5 products I've chosen do represent 5 of the most enjoyable and best products I personally have used. My first pick is an easy one, and that is the 7Hz Salnote Zero. Now the Salnote Zero are a budget set of IEMs that cost a mere £20, $20, and that makes them the most affordable pick on the list. And for that 20 quid you get unbelievable value. So the sound quality is absolutely tremendous, and we found out towards the end of the year that the tuning was done by Critical, even though he's not badged them. And I think most people will enjoy the frequency response of the Salnote Zero. Coupled with that, we get good technicality, so the imaging is very good, soundstage is not bad, and timbre is good. I would go so far as to say that I think you have to spend at least 4 times as much to get a notable sonic upgrade. So you're looking at the $80 to $100 region, something like the Moondrop Starfield, for example. And these punch well above their weight at $20. We get pretty decent build, we get nice quirky design, particularly in the funky blue colour which I've got, and quite remarkably at this price point we also get a high quality detachable cable. Now my second pick is a product which represents a, shall we say, endangered species of audiophile product, and that is digital audio players. And it's very rare that I carry a DAP DAP around with me, but when I do, I always reach for my FiiO M11 Plus ESS edition. Now that's a bit of an unwieldy name, and the reason for that is because there have been a number of M11 players that FiiO have released, and I believe this is the 4th iteration. And as you might expect, what we get here are a pair of high quality ESS DACs coupled with a THX amplifier. The whole package is fairly portable, although still quite hefty. We've got excellent battery life and fast charging. We've got an upgraded Qualcomm processor which runs Android 10 very nicely, and FiiO have managed to bypass the Android sample rate conversion for most apps. So for example, even if you use Spotify, Apple Music, you can get bit perfect playback. You've got an SD card slot for storing all your offline music, and you've also got the Google Play Store, so you can install all the apps that you want. The whole software experience is excellent, and it feels like a luxurious piece of hardware. There's plenty of power to drive demanding headphones, but plenty of subtlety and a really black background too, so sensitive, delicate IEMs will sound excellent as well. I love the sound quality from the M11 Plus. It's just another level of refinement from something like the Apple dongle with the iPhone. So you get much more detailed retrieval, much more space around instruments, and a much more convincing holographic soundstage. If you haven't heard a dedicated DAP before, then I'd definitely recommend that you go and check this FiiO M11 Plus out. You can of course spend far more on DAPs, you can spend 2-3 grand if you want, but I think at £600, while still expensive, the M11 Plus ESS edition represents solid value. Now my third pick is undoubtedly going to be divisive because it is the 2nd generation Apple AirPod Pros. The 1st generation Apple AirPod Pros were okay, but they weren't very exciting sonically. And in the 2nd generation AirPod Pros we get a really impactful, well-controlled and nicely textured bass. Coupled with that we get a nice sparkly treble and a pretty neutral and very natural sounding mid-range with decent instrument separation. We also get improved battery life, improved noise cancelling, and the usual seamless integration with the Apple ecosystem. Now we also get spatial audio coupled with an iPhone, and if you're using Apple Music, some of the mixes sound spectacular, like the 2017 spatial audio remix of Sgt. Pepper. The only caveat I would add here is that if you are not in the Apple ecosystem, then I don't think they represent good value for £250. Of course they'll work with your Android phone, but you'll be missing out on some of the best features. Now my 4th pick is a bit of a surprise package because it comes from a company that I'd not heard of before, and that's a company called Qstyle, and the product is the Qstyle M15 dongle DAC, an amp. It's a tiny little DAC and amp with a really big sound, and it connects to your smartphone courtesy of a USB-C connection, so you just need the right cable to hook it up to your iPhone or Android device. It sounds absolutely huge for such a small device. It's got an ESS DAC once again, coupled with an amplification circuit that Qstyle called current mode amplification. Now, I'm not sure what that means exactly in terms of engineering, but it results in the ability to drive even demanding headphones really well, particularly if you switch it into high gain mode. What you get is, yeah, very detailed and nuanced sound, but it's big and it's bold. And if you're listening to something like EDM music, you really get that kind of impact and kick. I think sometimes it sounds just a little bit too energetic, and therefore I prefer the slightly more toned down neutral sound of the FIO BTR5. But on the whole, I think you get an immense performance from such a small box, and it looks beautiful. So now we come on to our final pick, and we return to the world of Bluetooth audio, but this time we're talking about over-ear active noise cancelling headphones. Now, if you've been following the channel, you'll know that I recently reviewed both the Bowers & Wilkins PX8, £599, as well as the Focal Batiste, £699. And whilst I love both of them, I'm afraid I still think they're both a bit expensive to make it onto the list in terms of value. So my pick is a pair that I've been listening to really extensively for the last 3 or 4 weeks, but I haven't reviewed formally, and that is the Sennheiser Momentum 4. Now, these come in at £299, which is by no means cheap, but a lot more affordable than the Focals and the B&Ws. And I would argue that for that money, half the price, you get pretty much 90% of the performance. So I love the sound of these things. They're a little bit bass heavy out of the box, but you can easily knock it down a little bit using the EQ in the very good app that works on both iOS and Android. You get pretty solid comfort and reasonable build quality, despite the fact that it's all plastic. Astonishingly, you get 60 hours of battery life, which is double what you get from the Focals and the B&Ws. I'd argue that 30 hours is more than enough for most people, including me, but 60 hours is insane. I charged these up when I first got them a few weeks ago, and I haven't charged them again since. And when I go into the app, they're still saying something like 60%. So yeah, I do believe that these will last for 60 hours, which is, yeah, just out of this world. You get a nice hard case, you get cables, which you don't get with the AirPods Max, obviously. And all in all, I think if you're after a pair of still premium but slightly more affordable Bluetooth ANC headphones, you need to look at the Momentum 4s. I think they're better than the Sony 1000XM5s, which I reviewed earlier this year. They're certainly better in terms of sound quality than the Bose QC45s. The noise cancelling isn't as good as the Sonys or the Bose, but it's good enough, and I've enjoyed using these in noisy environments, on trains, etc., and they've been fine. So there you have it. Those are my 5 products of the year. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you've enjoyed using and listening to this year. As ever, if you've enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, and if you enjoy my content in general, do consider subscribing. I'll try and squeeze out another video on my favourite music of 2022 before the end of the year, but that's kind of 3 days' time, so I'm not sure whether I'll manage it. I hope you're all enjoying some downtime over the holidays, and stay safe, and I'll see you very soon.